I'm Cole Hannigan, a former Marine, now a construction contractor in the suburbs of Springfield, Illinois. My life revolves around long days on job sites, weekend afternoons watching baseball with friends at the Broken Willow Tavern, and above all, my 15-year-old daughter, Riley. Riley is my Lita girl who loves painting, listens to Taylor Swift, and always carries a notebook to jot down her dreams. But on a rainy October afternoon, everything I thought I knew about my family shattered. Starting with Riley's faint words from a hospital room, "Dad, look at my back." I'll never forget that moment. Riley lay in a bed at St. Margaret Community Hospital, her face pale as morning mist. She'd been battling a strange illness for months. Headaches, fatigue, weight loss, with no doctor able to pinpoint the cause. My wife Mara was always by Riley's side, playing the role of a devoted, worried mother. But when Riley asked me to look at her back, her voice trembled as if she were hiding fear. I gently lifted her hospital gown and my heart stopped. Dark bruises shaped like handprints stretched across her shoulders. A red burn resembling a belt buckle was etched into her skin near her ribs. This wasn't an accident. This was abuse. Rage boiled inside me, but 15 years in the Marines taught me to stay calm. I pressed the nurse call button, my eyes fixed on Mara, who sat in the corner pretending to scroll through her phone. "What's wrong, honey?" Mara asked, her voice sweet as syrup, but I saw the tension in her eyes. Riley flinched when her mother spoke. I knew right then something was deeply wrong. I asked the nurse to call security and the police. Mara protested, claiming Riley fell down the stairs the previous week, that she was clumsy because of her illness. But I didn't buy it. Not when Riley whispered almost inaudibly, "Dad, don't let me stay with Mom." Those words pierced my heart like glass. What had I missed in my own home? As a father, I thought I was protecting Riley. I took her camping, taught her how to throw a baseball, listened to her talk about her paintings. But now I realized I'd been blind to the truth. How could a mother harm her own child? The psychology of abusers is terrifying. They don't just inflict physical pain, they manipulate their victims' minds, making them feel no one will believe them. I'd read about cases like this, like a mother in Ohio in the 2000s, who poisoned her son with medication to collect insurance money while the town thought she was a model parent. Was Mara doing the same? I started seeking the truth. In Riley's hospital bag, I found her sketchbook. The early pages were cheerful daisies, skies, portraits of friends. But as I flipped further, the images grew darker. One drawing showed a woman resembling Mara, her hand raised, standing over a cowering girl. Another depicted a large man, his face scratched out in red. The final page read, "Mom says no one will believe me. Mom says Dad will think I'm making it up for attention." My chest tightened. Riley had been trying to tell me not with words, but through her art. I realized children often use creativity to express pain when they're too scared to speak. It reminded me of real cases, like a girl in California who drew violent images in class, but her teacher dismissed it as imagination. If someone had paid closer attention, she might have been saved sooner. I blamed myself for missing Riley's signs. I visited Riley's art teacher, Jenny Bray, at Springfield High School. Jenny looked like she'd been crying, her hair messily tied far from her usual neat appearance. "I knew something was wrong," she said, her voice shaking. Riley's art changed last spring, darker, more violent. I reported it to the school counselor, even called Child Protective Services, but Mara came in with cookies saying Riley was just stressed from her illness. She was so convincing. Anger surged, not just at Mara, but at the system that failed my daughter. Mara had built a perfect facade, beautiful, charming, saying exactly what people wanted to hear. It made me think about how abusers exploit society's trust. They're not obvious monsters. They're neighbors, co-workers, people you invite to weekend barbecues. I decided if the system wouldn't protect Riley, I would. I went home and entered the kitchen where Mara had left her laptop. I'd never snooped through my wife's things, but now I had no choice. The screen lit up, revealing Mara's inbox. Most emails were work-related or spam, but one address kept appearing, triel99@gmail.com. I opened the first email, dated 3 weeks earlier. "Mara, I can't stop thinking about yesterday. When can we meet again?" The more I read, the colder I felt. These emails didn't just reveal an affair, they exposed a sick plan. One email read, The girl's getting suspicious, asking too much about the bruises. We need to be careful, Mara replied. Maybe we should pause for a while, let things cool off. Betrayal responded, no stopping now. If she talks, we're done. The floor seemed to collapse beneath me. They weren't just hurting Riley, they were planning to kill her. I thought of real cases like a couple in Texas who plotted to kill their adopted child for insurance money, only caught when the child confided in a teacher. People like Mara and Triel don't act impulsively. They're calculated cold. I wondered who Triel was. Riley had drawn him a large, muscular man. I remembered Mara mentioning a friendly trainer at Ironworks gym on the outskirts of town. I decided to investigate, but first I needed more evidence. I knocked on the door of our neighbor across the street, Lenora Greaves, known for her security cameras and nosy habits. Cole, I heard about Riley, Lenora said, inviting me into her living room filled with porcelain cat figurines. I need to see your camera footage, I said bluntly. She nodded and led me to her computer, which stored 60 days of recordings. I sat there for hours scanning videos. Then I saw it October 15th, 10:30 p.m. A pickup truck parked in front of our house. A large man got out and entered through the front door. I was in Kansas City that night. On November 3rd, 2:17 a.m., Mara and the man dragged something looking like a small body into the garage. My heart pounded. It was Riley. Lenora peered over my shoulder, her face pale. My God, Cole, is that her? I nodded, asking her to copy the footage onto a disk. I called Deputy Sheriff Langston Rigg, who'd interviewed me at the hospital. I have footage you need to see, I said. Mara and some guy dragging Riley unconscious into the garage 3 weeks ago. Rigg came immediately and I handed him the disc. But I didn't stop there. I went back home and checked the garage. In the corner, there were faint stains, maybe oil, but I suspected blood. I didn't touch them, afraid of ruining evidence. I thought about how abusers cover their tracks, like a case in Florida where a couple hid a victim's body in their basement, only discovered when neighbors noticed a strange smell. I decided to turn our basement into a soundproof room, not to harm, but to confront. Using my construction skills, I installed drywall and added soundproofing. When Rigg arrived, I showed him the garage and told him my plan. Cole, don't do anything stupid, he warned. But I wasn't listening. I needed the truth, no matter the cost. I met with Avery Schultz, a psychologist and old friend from Fallujah, at the Broken Willow Tavern. Avery, I need to understand the mindset of people who hurt Riley, I said. Avery sipped his beer, eyes narrowing. Abusers are cowards, he explained. They target the weak but live in fear of exposure. They build perfect facades, loving wife, caring mother, but inside they're paranoid, anxious. I asked how to break them. Isolate them, Avery said. Make them doubt each other, lose their support. I nodded, taking mental notes. I thought about Mara, how she controlled everything from family dinners to Riley's clothes. She didn't just hurt Riley. She wanted to own her mind, to make Riley feel worthless. It reminded me of a case in Michigan where a mother convinced her daughter she was mentally ill just to silence her about abuse. I vowed not to let Mara win. I found Triel Tanner Creel, the manager at Ironworks gym. I went to the gym where the smell of sweat and clanging weights filled the air. Tanner stood behind the counter, muscles bulging, but his eyes flickered when I showed him the footage. You've got the wrong guy, he said, voice shaky. I didn't back down. I saw you dragging my daughter into the garage at 2 a.m. I have emails between you and Mara talking about killing her. Tanner collapsed into a chair, face ashen. I didn't hit her, he stammered. Mara said Riley was trouble-threatening to lie about our marriage. I just helped. I recorded everything, forcing him to spill it all, the affair, how Mara asked him to discipline Riley, how they gave Riley high doses of Benadryl to confuse her. Mara said it'd be quick, Tanner confessed, like she'd go to sleep and not wake up. Rage exploded inside me, but I kept my voice steady. You'll help me or I send this recording to your wife, the gym, and the whole town. Tanner agreed to call Mara, saying he was ready to run away with her. I worked with Jenny Bray, Riley's teacher, who ran a podcast called Midwestern Mysteries. Jenny invited me on the show, and I shared Riley's story, the bruises, the sketchbook, the footage, and Tanner's recording. This isn't just abuse, I said on air. They were going to kill my daughter and make it look like an illness. The podcast went viral, racking up thousands of downloads in hours. Mara fell into the trap, showing up at a rendezvous point at an old factory outside town. The police, led by Deputy Rigg, were waiting. Mara was handcuffed, her face showing no remorse. Tanner surrendered shortly after, spilling everything to lessen his sentence. At the trial, Mara was sentenced to 35 years without parole for child abuse, attempted murder, and insurance fraud. She stood before the judge, staring at me. "I gave you 15 years of marriage," she said coldly. "But Riley was always in the way. I just fixed the problem." I replied, voice clear, "Riley's my daughter, and you failed if you thought you could destroy her. Tanner got 20 years, enough to keep him from hurting anyone else. I found the final evidence in Mara's safe, a vial of insulin enough to kill Riley and make it look like a medical accident, along with a $500,000 insurance policy in Riley's name. Mara had planned it for years, forging my signature, crafting a narrative that Riley was mentally unstable. Riley and I moved to a lakeside house outside Springfield. I renovated it, adding a studio for Riley. She started painting again, her canvases bursting with color, no longer shadowed. One afternoon, Riley stood with me on the porch, looking at a steel sculpture she'd designed, a symbol of growth and strength. "Dad, Mom said I was the problem." Riley said, voice steady. "But I wasn't, was I?" I looked at her, pride swelling. "No, kiddo, your mom was the problem. But we didn't break." Riley smiled, a smile I hadn't seen in ages. I knew, despite the painful past, Riley would be stronger than ever. I kept thinking about what happened, about how Mara fooled everyone, teachers, doctors, even me. It made me realize abuse isn't just physical. It's a web of lies and manipulation. I recalled a story in Pennsylvania where a father discovered his son was abused by a stepmother through the boy's diary, but police initially didn't believe it because she was a respected social worker. People like Mara rely on our trust, but we can change that. Listen to kids, believe them, and act. That's the lesson I want to share. Riley taught me that even in darkness, there's light, and I'll always fight to protect that light. I still check the house every night, ensuring doors are locked, cameras are on. Not because I fear Mara's return, she'll be in prison for decades, but because I never want to miss a sign again. Riley's now in 11th grade, joined the art club, and even started teaching painting to kids at the community center. She wants to be an art therapist, helping other kids tell their stories. I'm proud, but sometimes I catch Riley staring into the distance as if memories still haunt her. I know her healing journey will be long, but I'll be there every step. I think about Tanner, now isolated in prison, and Mara, who'll never know freedom. Justice was served, but it doesn't erase the scars. I learned justice isn't just punishment. It's ensuring people like Riley get to live, love, and dream. I hope this story makes you think about kids silently suffering, about the power of believing and acting. If you see something wrong, don't turn away. Be the voice like I was for Riley. Months after the trial, I thought Riley and I had finally found peace. Our lakeside house in Springfield suburbs became our sanctuary, where Riley could paint, laugh, and slowly reclaim herself. But I soon realized Mara's darkness didn't vanish easily. One evening, while checking work emails, a notification popped up from an unknown address. "She's not safe, Cole." No signature, no clues. I glanced out the window, seeing Riley painting on the porch, golden light on her face. My heart raced. Was someone watching us? Or was it a sick prank? I'd seen cases like this on the news, a family in Missouri harassed via email after exposing abuse, later traced to the perpetrator's friends seeking revenge. I decided not to tell Riley, not wanting to scare her, but I beefed up security, more cameras, new locks, and a shotgun in the safe. I told myself I'd protect Riley whatever the cost. Weeks later, a bigger shock hit. Deputy Sheriff Langston Rigg called. "Cole, we found something in Mara's prison belongings," he said, voice tense. A handwritten notebook detailing Riley, her routines, friends, places she goes. There's mention of a backup plan if Mara got caught. My blood ran cold. Had Mara planned for this? Did she have accomplices beyond Tanner? I thought about the psychology of people like Mara. They never act entirely alone. Like a case in Indiana where a mother hired someone to intimidate her child into silence, even from prison. I went to the station immediately, where Rigg showed me the notebook. Pages filled with Mara's neat handwriting listed Riley's schedule: Tuesdays, 3:30 p.m. art class at the community center. Fridays, 6:00 p.m., meets friends at Dairy Queen. At the end, a line chilled me. "Call R if things go south." Who was R? I started watching Riley more closely, trying not to let her notice. I drove her to school claiming it was on my way to job sites. But Riley's sharp, she sensed the change. One night, over her favorite pepperoni pizza, she set her plate down and looked at me. "Dad, what's going on? You keep staring out the window like someone's about to break in." I wanted to shield her from the truth, but her eyes said she deserved to know. I told her about the email in Mara's notebook, leaving out the R detail. Riley was quiet, then said, "Dad, I don't want to live in fear anymore. If Mom's still trying to hurt me, we need to find out who's helping her." Her words hit like a punch, but also a reminder Riley wasn't a helpless victim. She wanted to fight, and I had to stand with her. I reached out to Avery Schultz again to understand Mara's backup plan. Avery explained that people like Mara often have networks, friends, ex-lovers, or even family willing to help out of blind loyalty or personal gain. "She might have manipulated someone long ago," Avery said. "See? Find someone Mara trusted completely, someone who'd do her dirty work." I racked my brain thinking of Mara's close contacts. A name flashed: Rebecca, Mara's cousin in Chicago. Rebecca had visited us a few times, always cozy with Mara, but cold to Riley. I remembered Riley flinching when Rebecca tried to hug her as if scared. I dismissed it as childish then, but now I wondered. I found Rebecca's number in Mara's old contacts and called, pretending to check in. "How's Mara doing, Cole?" Rebecca asked, voice sweet but strained. I lied, saying Mara sent a message asking her to hold an item, and I heard Rebecca hesitate. "I don't know anything about that," she said, then hung up. That reaction was enough to make me suspicious. I decided to investigate Rebecca. I drove to Chicago, to her Logan Square neighborhood where she worked as a banker. I didn't confront her, just watched from my car with a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Rebecca left the bank at 5 p.m., but instead of going home, she drove to a bar in Wicker Park. I followed, keeping my distance. Inside, I saw her meet a man about 40, salt and pepper hair, leather jacket. They whispered, exchanging an envelope. I snapped photos from afar, heart pounding. Was this R? Back home, I sent the photos to Rig, asking him to check. "Cole, you're playing with fire," Rig warned, but he agreed to look. 2 days later, he called back. The man's Ronald Kessler, a loan shark in Chicago with a rap sheet for extortion. Rebecca dealt with him through the bank. Looks like Mara owed Kessler money, and she might have promised to pay with Riley's insurance. I was stunned. Mara wasn't just trying to kill Riley out of jealousy. She was using her as a pawn in a financial scheme. I knew I had to protect Riley, but I also wanted to understand Mara's full plan. I went back to Jenny Bray, now a close friend, after the podcast. Jenny suggested checking Rebecca's social media for clues. I used Jenny's account to view Rebecca's Instagram since she'd blocked me. In an old post, I saw Rebecca with Mara at a Chicago restaurant captioned "Sisters Forever." But what caught my eye was a comment from a strange account, RK, "I don't forget the promise, B." I screenshotted it and sent it to Rig. He confirmed the account belonged to Ronald Kessler. It was coming together. Mara had enlisted Rebecca, and Rebecca linked with Kessler to ensure Mara's backup plan went through, even from prison. I faced a tough choice: report to the police and hope they handled it, or stop the threat myself. I chose the latter, but not recklessly. I contacted an investigative reporter at the Springfield Daily News, Amanda Torres, who'd covered Mara's trial. Amanda agreed to help expose Kessler and Rebecca, but needed concrete evidence. I returned to Chicago, this time with a hidden mic borrowed from Jenny. I entered the bar where Rebecca met Kessler, posing as a regular. I overheard Kessler tell Rebecca Mara promised 100 grand if the girl disappears. "Can you handle it?" Rebecca whispered. "I know Riley's schedule. It's easy." I recorded it all, heart racing. As I left, I felt Kessler's eyes on me, like he suspected something. I sent the recording to Amanda, who worked with Rig to set a trap. Police tailed Rebecca, and when she tried contacting one of Kessler's goons near Riley's school, they arrested her on the spot. Rebecca confessed that Mara promised to split the insurance money if she helped remove Riley after Mara's arrest. Kessler was arrested soon after with evidence from the recording and bank transactions. Amanda published an expose in the Springfield Daily News titled "Prison Plot. Stepmother Continues to Target Victim Daughter." The article caused a storm shaking Springfield. I felt relief, but also worry. Were there others in Mara's network? Riley, now 16, started getting community attention. A nonprofit in Illinois, Kids First, invited her to share her story at a fundraiser. I worried that going public might hurt her, but Riley was determined. "Dad, I want other kids to know they're not alone," she said. At the event, Riley stood on stage, voice shaky but strong, recounting her months of fear and how she used art to cope. When she held up her latest painting, a bird rising from flames, the room stood and applauded. I sat in the audience, tears streaming. Riley wasn't just surviving, she was inspiring. But the story wasn't over. One night, checking security cameras, I saw a strange car parked near our house. No one got out, but a chill ran through me. I called Rig, who traced the plate. It belonged to Greg Dalton, an old friend of Mara's, a lawyer who'd helped her draft the fake insurance policy. Greg had vanished after the trial, but was back. I thought of people like Greg, those who work behind the scenes enabling abusers for money. Like a case in New York where a lawyer covered up child abuse to protect a wealthy client only exposed when the victim spoke out. I decided to confront Greg, but this time I brought Riley not to confront, but to show her I'd never stop protecting her. I found Greg at a small law office in Decatur, an hour from Springfield. I walked in Riley, waiting in the locked car. "Greg, we need to talk about Mara," I said bluntly. He feigned surprise, but his eyes darted. "I'm done with her," he said. I showed him the photo of his car near my house. "Don't lie. I have cameras and the police are watching you." Greg paled, admitting Mara contacted him through a prison intermediary, asking him to keep Riley quiet for a large sum. "I wasn't going to do anything," he stammered. "Just scoping. I recorded it all, sent it to Rig." Greg was arrested for conspiracy to extort, and Mara faced new charges from behind bars. I realized Mara, even incarcerated, was still reaching for Riley. It made me think about the power of manipulation, how people like Mara never give up even when they've lost everything. I started working with kids first to host school workshops, teaching parents and teachers to spot abuse signs. Riley joined, sharing her story through her art. Once she told me, "Dad, I used to think I was invisible. But now I know my voice matters." Those words were my greatest reward. But another twist came. One morning I got a letter from the prison, Mara's handwriting. "Cole," she wrote, "you think you've won, but I know something you'll never suspect. Ask Riley about the man she met in the park last summer." I was floored. Was Mara playing mind games, or was there a real secret I didn't want to hurt Riley, but I had to ask? "Riley, did you meet someone in the park I don't know about?" I asked gently. Riley paled, then confessed, "There was a man who said Mom hired him to take pictures of me. I was scared, so I didn't tell you." I hugged her, promising to find the truth. I sent the letter to Rig, who investigated. It turned out Mara had hired an amateur paparazzi to stalk Riley, trying to fabricate evidence that Riley was unstable to overturn the case. The plan failed, but it showed Mara never quit. I kept protecting Riley, but also taught her to protect herself. I enrolled her in self-defense classes at the local YMCA, where she learned to stand tall and confident. One day, walking by the lake, Riley pointed to a blue heron standing still in the water, waiting to strike. "I want to be like that, Dad," she said. Patient, but always ready. I smiled, knowing Riley wasn't just surviving, she was becoming a warrior. After Greg Dalton's arrest, I thought I'd finally cut all ties to Mara. Riley was finding joy again, from painting at the community center to weekend movie nights at Springfield's AMC. But I soon learned Mara's shadow wasn't just a memory, it lingered, seeping into our lives like an incurable plague. One Sunday morning, as I brewed Folgers in the kitchen, Riley ran in, pale, holding a letter. "Dad, it was slipped under the door," she said, voice trembling. The letter, a folded scrap of paper, read, "Riley, you can't hide forever. Tell the truth or your dad pays." No signature, but the sharp, slanted handwriting sent a chill through me. I'd seen it in Mara's prison notebook. How did she get this to us? I thought of similar cases, like one in Wisconsin, where a prisoner used outside friends to send threatening letters, keeping victims in fear. I hugged Riley, promising no one would hurt her, but inside, I knew I had to act fast. I took the letter to Deputy Sheriff Langston Rigg, now all too familiar with our family's saga. "Cole, this is a clear threat," Rigg said, examining the paper through a plastic bag. "But Mara can't do this alone from prison. She's got outside help." I shared my suspicion that Mara might be using prison phone calls or coded letters. Rigg agreed to investigate, but warned Illinois prisons have tight monitoring, but people like Mara find loopholes. You need to be more careful than ever." I nodded, but I was already planning my own moves. I couldn't wait for the police while Riley was threatened. I thought about Mara's psychology. She didn't just want to harm Riley. She wanted control to keep us in eternal fear. It reminded me of a Minnesota case where a convicted mother sent anonymous letters to her son, landing him in the hospital with PTSD. I swore Riley wouldn't end up like that. I started monitoring everything around Riley more closely. I checked her friends, people she met at school, even teachers. One name stood out: Riley's new English teacher, Diane Foster. Diane, about 45, was always friendly, giving Riley books and praising her art. But something about her unnerved me, how she pried into Riley's family life as if fishing for information. Riley once mentioned Diane asked about Mara, saying she was curious about the trial. I hadn't thought much of it then, but now with the threatening letter I wondered, was Diane involved? I decided to dig. I looked up Diane online, finding her LinkedIn profile. She'd taught in Chicago, overlapping with Rebecca's time there. Coincidence? I no longer believed in those. I contacted Amanda Torres, the Springfield Daily News reporter who helped expose Rebecca and Kessler. "Amanda, I need you to check someone," I said, sending Diane's info. Amanda, with her wide network, promised to dig deep. While waiting, I kept Riley home, claiming she needed rest after the kids' first event. Riley didn't protest, but I saw her eyes. She knew I was hiding something. "Dad, if Mom's still trying something, I want to know," she said one night over grilled cheese sandwiches in the backyard. I sighed, sharing part of the truth. "There was a letter, Riley. Someone's trying to scare us, but I'll handle it." Riley nodded, but I saw her grip the table's edge. "I'm not scared of Mom anymore," she said, "but I want this to end." Her words lit a fire, pushing me to dig deeper. Amanda called back 3 days later, voice tense. "Cole, Diane Foster isn't her real name. It's Diane Kessler, Ronald Kessler's sister. She changed her name 2 years ago, right before moving to Springfield. There's evidence she met Mara in Chicago through a prison family support group." My blood boiled. Diane wasn't just Riley's teacher. She was part of Mara's network planted at the school to watch my daughter. I thought about how abusers build networks of enablers, like a case in Ohio where a teacher was bribed to report on a victim, helping the abuser control from afar. I knew I had to act, but I couldn't let Diane suspect. I worked with Rig and Amanda to set a trap. I went to the school pretending to thank Diane for supporting Riley. "You're an amazing teacher," I said, watching her reaction. Diane smiled, but I saw her fingers tremble, holding her Starbucks cup. "Riley's a special girl," she said, "but I worry she's still haunted by her mom's issues." I nodded, feigning agreement, then asked, "Ever meet Mara?" She mentioned a Chicago friend. Diane paled, stammering, "No, I don't know Mara, but I'd recorded the conversation, and her shaky voice was enough for Rig to move." Police searched Diane's home, finding coded letters between her and Mara hidden in books she'd given Riley. One book, The Catcher in the Rye, had marked lines forming a message: "Keep watching. Don't let her talk." I shuddered, realizing how long Diane had been close to Riley, pretending to care while plotting harm. Diane was arrested for conspiracy and aiding a criminal. During questioning, she admitted Mara promised to pay off her brother Ronald's debts by using Riley as leverage. If Riley kept speaking out, Mara threatened to expose Kessler's secrets to Chicago police. I was horrified, but realized Riley had unwittingly foiled their plan by going public at Kids First. Her courage not only saved herself, but exposed a criminal network. Amanda published another article, "Teacher or Monster Plot Against Abuse Victim Shocking Springfield." I started getting messages from other parents thanking Riley for inspiring them to check on their kids for abuse signs. But another twist hit. One night, as Riley and I watched Stranger Things on Netflix, my phone rang. It was Jenny Bray. Panicked. "Cole, I got an anonymous package. Inside was a USB with a video of Riley from last summer's park." I raced to Jenny's house, heart pounding. The video showed Riley on a bench at Lincoln Park, a strange man, not the paparazzi she'd mentioned, talking to her. He handed her a water bottle, and she drank, looking dazed. I realized this was when Riley's illness symptoms began, unexplained by doctors. Mara hadn't just abused Riley. She'd been poisoning her early on, possibly through things like that bottle. I thought of child poisoning cases like one in Colorado where a mother slipped sedatives into her child's food, slowly weakening them. I gave the USB to Rig, who sent it to a lab. Results showed fingerprints on the bottle matching Brian Walsh, Mara's college friend, now a pharmacist in Peoria. I confronted Brian at his Peoria pharmacy. "Brian, I know what you did at the park," I said, showing him the video still. He sweated, denying it, but when I mentioned the USB and fingerprints, he crumbled. Mara said it was just a mild sedative to calm Riley, he confessed. She paid me $5,000. I recorded it all, rage surging. Brian hadn't just helped Mara poison Riley. He'd supplied drugs for her plan, including the insulin in the safe. Rig arrested Brian the next day, and he spilled more. Mara had contacted him through an encrypted app, even from prison. I realized Mara wasn't just an abuser, she was a criminal mastermind running a network to harm Riley from behind bars. I started working with Springfield lawyers to ensure Mara never got early release. I also joined Riley's school parent council, pushing for child abuse education programs. Riley, now a senior, decided to write a book about her experience titled From Shadows to Light. She wanted book proceeds to support kids first. Over lunch at Bob's Burgers, Riley said, "Dad, I used to think Mom would always win. But now I know we're stronger than her." I smiled but stayed vigilant. As long as Mara lived, she'd try to hurt Riley. One evening, checking emails, another anonymous message appeared. "Ask Riley about her secret friend." I was floored. Another of Mara's games, I gently asked Riley, who confessed I had an online friend on Discord, Shadow Wolf. He said he understood me, but lately he asked about Mom and the trial. I checked Riley's Discord, and with help from a tech expert Amanda recommended, I found Shadow Wolf was a fake account, operated from an Illinois prison. Mara, through a prison accomplice, had tried manipulating Riley online, posing as a friend to extract information. I blocked the account, but it showed me Mara would never stop. I thought of online manipulators like a Florida case where a prisoner used social media to threaten victims from jail, forcing a family to relocate. I took Riley to a trauma specialist, Dr. Emily Nguyen, in Springfield. Emily helped Riley face her fears and taught me how to support her without making her feel controlled. In one session, Riley drew a painting, a blue heron in a stormwing spread. "This is me," she said. "Even in chaos, I stand strong." I hung the painting in our living room, a reminder of Riley's strength. But I also upped security, hired a patrol service for our area, and taught Riley to spot danger signs like strange cars or followers. Another twist came when Rig called one morning. "Colby caught a guy trying to break into Amanda Torres's office." He confessed Mara hired him to destroy evidence of her network. The man, Eddie Malone, a former inmate with Tanner Creel, revealed Mara had a secret fund from fake insurance money hidden in an offshore account to pay people like him. I was stunned by Mara's sophistication. She wasn't just an abuser. She was a professional criminal running a network from prison. Rig and Amanda worked with the FBI to trace the offshore account, discovering Mara had contacted a small Chicago crime ring, promising payment to deal with Riley and me if we kept going public. I couldn't stop. I reached out to Child Help, a national organization, to share Riley's story, hoping to pressure the prison system to cut Mara's communications. Riley, now 17, started making YouTube videos for Kids First, sharing about art and overcoming trauma. One video, Drawing My Way to Freedom, hit over 100,000 views, making Springfield proud. But fame brought risks. Riley got an Instagram message. "You think you're safe, but I'm watching." I traced the IP to a Springfield coffee shop. Security footage showed a young woman about 25 sending it. Rig identified her, Lisa Carter, Mara's former cellmate, recently released. Lisa was rearrested, confessing Mara promised her $10,000 to scare Riley into silence. I realized Mara had made Riley a relentless target. I hired a private investigator, Mike Callahan, to monitor Mara's prison communications. Mike found Mara was using a contraband phone system hidden in the prison laundry room. The FBI raided the facility, seized the phones, and Mara was transferred to a maximum security prison in Marion, Illinois. But even there, she managed one last message through a bribed guard, Cole, "I'll never stop. Riley is mine." I burned the letter in the backyard, vowing Mara would never touch my daughter. Riley, now a rising young artist, was invited to exhibit her paintings at a Chicago gallery. Her centerpiece, the Heron's Strike, depicted our blue heron eyes blazing with resolve. At the exhibit, Riley told the crowd I was a victim, but now I'm a storyteller. Every brushstroke is a step out of darkness. I stood in the corner, tears falling silently. Riley wasn't just surviving, she was changing the world. But I knew deep down I had to stay vigilant. Mara might be locked away, but people like her always find a way back. After the barrage of threats from Mara and her network, I thought I was prepared for anything. But life, as I've learned, always finds a way to surprise you. One late fall afternoon, with golden leaves blanketing the lake near our Springfield home, I got a call from Dr. Emily Nguyen Riley's therapist. "Cole Riley wants you at today's session," she said, voice gentle but urgent. "She has something important to share." I dropped my work at the job site, drove my Ford F-150 to Emily's office, heart racing. Riley was stronger than ever, but I still worried. Mara had left too many scars, and I feared another secret could hurt her. When I entered the therapy room, Riley sat in an armchair clutching a new painting, a blue heron wing spread soaring through a vibrant sky. She smiled, but her eyes were red like she'd been crying. "Dad, I need to tell you something." Riley began, voice trembling. "I've kept this secret too long because I was scared you'd worry." I sat down trying to stay calm, but my mind raced with worst-case scenarios. Another of Mara's accomplices, and unreported abuse. Riley took a deep breath, then said, "Last summer, before everything came out, Mom took me to meet a man at Lincoln Park. He said he was a doctor, that he could cure my illness, but he gave me a pill and I felt dizzy. I didn't tell you, because Mom said if I did, you'd abandon me." Rage toward Mara surged, but I held Riley's hand, whispering, "I'd never abandon you, Riley. You're safe. Tell me everything." Riley continued, voice steadier. "The man, it turned out, was another pharmacist, not Brian Walsh, hired by Mara to test drugs on Riley, a strong sedative to worsen her illness symptoms, bolstering Mara's insurance scam. Riley had kept it secret out of fear, but in therapy she realized truth was the only way to break free from Mara. "I don't want Mom controlling me anymore, even through these secrets," Riley said, eyes shining. I hugged her, torn between heartbreak and pride. Riley wasn't just a victim. She was a warrior, and her courage once again unraveled Mara's web. I immediately informed Deputy Sheriff Langston Rigg. With Riley's description, Rigg tracked down the man Victor Hayes, a disbarred pharmacist in St. Louis linked to Brian Walsh through an illegal drug ring. Rigg and the FBI raided Hayes' home, finding documents tying him to Mara encrypted emails where Mara promised $20,000 to prepare Riley for a staged death. Hayes was arrested, and Mara faced new charges: conspiracy to cause serious bodily harm from Marion's maximum security prison. I thought about how people like Mara never quit, like a Nevada case where a jailed criminal ran an extortion ring through outside accomplices. But this time, Mara lost. Riley had taken her final weapon: silence. To keep Riley safe, I worked with Mike Callahan to check Mara's remaining communications. Mike found another secret bank account Mara opened under a fake name before her arrest, holding $50,000 from fraudulent insurance deals. The FBI froze it, cutting Mara's last financial lifeline. I also collaborated with Child Help and Kids First to push for new Illinois laws demanding stricter monitoring of prisoners with child abuse histories. The bill, dubbed Riley's Law after my daughter, was introduced to the state legislature the following spring, backed by hundreds of Springfield families. Riley, now 18, stood before lawmakers sharing her story. "I used to think I was invisible," she said, voice echoing in the chamber. "But I learned my voice can change things. Don't let other kids stay silent." As Riley finished, the room stood in applause, and I knew Mara, no matter how hard she tried, could never reach her again. But Mara, true to her nature, tried one final blow. One day, as Riley and I prepared for her second art exhibit in Chicago, I got a call from an unknown number. A woman's trembling voice said, "I'm Mara's cellmate. She told me to say she has a tape, a recording of Riley lying about the abuse. Mara says if you don't drop all charges, she'll release it." Rage flared, but I saw it as Mara's last manipulation. I contacted Rigg, who confirmed no tape existed. The woman was coerced by Mara's prison threats. The FBI investigated, and Mara lost all communication privileges, placed in indefinite solitary. This time she was truly cut off, unable to harm us. Riley and I returned to our lakeside home, where her steel sculpture symbolizing growth and strength stood tall in the yard. One evening, sipping Dr. Pepper on the porch, watching the sunset, Riley turned to me. Dad, I used to think Mom was the storm that'd drown us, but you taught me how to fly through it. I smiled, resting my hand on her shoulder. Riley, you taught me how to fight. Your mom can try forever, but you're stronger than any plan she's got. Riley grinned, a radiant smile free of shadows. She pointed to the blue heron standing silently in the water waiting to strike. Like that right, Dad, patient, but never giving up. I nodded, my heart full. Our story doesn't end with Mara or her threats. It lives on through Riley's paintings, through Riley's law, through the kids she inspires at kids' first workshops. I learned justice isn't just punishing evil. It's building a world where kids like Riley are safe, heard, and loved. Mara tried to destroy us, but she only made us stronger. I think of families out there fighting similar darkness. If you're hearing this, remember, trust kids, act when something feels off, and never let silence win. Riley taught me that even the deepest scars can become art, and I'll spend my life ensuring her light shines forever.